The next morning, the house felt different. The kind of quiet that isn't peaceful. The kind that feels like something has died. I woke up early, long before the sun. The world outside was still dark. Hania was asleep beside me, her hand still resting on mine. I gently moved it away and sat up, staring at the shadows on the wall. For a few minutes, I just sat there, listening to the faint hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen, the ticking clock, and the sound of my own breathing. Everything looked the same, yet nothing was. Downstairs, I could hear movement. Slow footsteps. When I walked into the kitchen, Aslam was already there, standing by the counter with a cup of tea in his hand. His eyes were red, like he hadn't slept either. He looked up when I entered, and for a long moment, we just stood there in silence. Husband and wife. Two people who had built a life together, now standing on the ruins of it. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. His voice cracked. Those two words should have brought relief, but instead, they made my chest tighten. Sorry. Such a small word for such a big wound. I didn't answer. I went to the stove, poured water into the kettle, and lit the flame. My hands moved automatically, the same motions I'd done for years. But this time, every action felt heavy. He spoke again. "It was a mistake. I don't expect you to forgive me, but please believe me when I say I regret it." I finally looked at him. "You regret being caught," I said softly. "Not what you did." He lowered his gaze. The silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. I thought of all the mornings we'd shared like this. Quiet moments before the world woke up. I used to love them. They were our time, our small ritual of connection. But now, they were just ghosts. When the kettle whistled, I turned it off and poured myself a cup of tea. My hands trembled slightly, but I kept my voice calm. "You broke something that can't be fixed with apologies, Aslam." He nodded slowly. "I know. I wanted to ask why. I wanted to know what I had done wrong, what I had missed. But deep down, I knew it wasn't about me. Sometimes people make choices that have nothing to do with the ones they hurt. Sometimes it's just weakness, selfishness, or emptiness they're trying to fill." He stepped closer, his voice low. "I never wanted to hurt you. I don't even know how it happened. One day it just did." I let out a shaky breath. "It didn't just happen, Aslam. You let it happen. You watched it grow and you didn't stop it." He had no answer. And maybe that silence was the truth I needed. Later that morning, Shazia came downstairs. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen from crying. She looked at me like a child waiting for punishment. "Appa?" she began, her voice trembling. I held up my hand. "Don't call me that right now," I said quietly. Her eyes filled with tears. "Please, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to happen." I turned away, unable to look at her. "You didn't mean to betray your sister? You didn't mean to destroy a family?" She covered her face with her hands. "I hate myself for it," she whispered. I closed my eyes, trying to hold back tears. I wanted to scream, to ask how she could do something so cruel, but my voice wouldn't rise. It stayed soft, trembling, almost broken. "You were my sister. I trusted you with everything." "I know," she sobbed. "And I don't deserve your forgiveness. I just want you to know that I'm leaving." I packed my things. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Despite everything, the thought of her leaving made my heart ache. We had grown up together, shared secrets, fought and laughed. She was the only person who knew the deepest parts of my life. Losing her, even after what she had done, felt like losing a part of myself. I turned to face her. "Where will you go?" "I don't know," she said quietly. "But I can't stay here. Not after what I've done." The sunlight through the window fell softly on her face. She looked broken, not defiant. There was no pride left, only shame. Aslam stood in the doorway, watching silently. For a second, our eyes met. 3 lives tangled in betrayal, guilt, and silence. "Go," I said finally. My voice cracked. "It's better for everyone." She nodded, tears running down her face. "I'm sorry, Appa," she whispered again before walking out the door. The sound of it closing echoed through the house, and something inside me broke with it. After she left, the house felt emptier than ever. The air was heavy, as if the walls themselves were mourning. Hania stayed in her room most of the day. I could hear her moving around, crying quietly. When she finally came downstairs, her eyes were red, but her expression was firm. "Did she leave?" she asked. I nodded. "Good," she said, her voice sharp. "She doesn't deserve to be here." "Hania," I said softly, "anger won't heal us. It'll just keep the wound open." She looked at me, frustration in her eyes. How can you be so calm, Mama? She ruined everything. And She paused, her voice shaking. He betrayed you. I sighed. Yes, but shouting won't change it. We can't undo what's been done. She turned away, pacing the room. You're too forgiving. That's your problem. You always forgive, even when people don't deserve it. Her words hit deep, but I didn't argue. She was right in her own way. I'd always been the one to keep peace, to swallow my pain for the sake of family. But this time, it wasn't about forgiveness yet. It was about survival. I needed time to breathe, to think, to decide what would come next. That evening, I walked to the backyard. The sky was painted orange and pink, and the birds were flying home. I sat on the old wooden bench, the same one where Aslam and I used to sit years ago, dreaming about the future. Now, those dreams felt like faded pictures. After a while, I heard footsteps behind me. It was Aslam. He stood there quietly, not daring to sit beside me. I'll leave if you want me to, he said finally. I don't want to make things harder. I didn't answer right away. I kept watching the sky. You already did, I said softly. He sighed, his shoulders slumping. I know. We sat there in silence for a long time. The air was cool, the crickets starting to sing. Do you love her? I asked suddenly, my voice calm. He looked surprised. No, it wasn't love. It was a mistake. A weakness. Then why? He didn't answer. He just looked down at his hands. And in that moment, I realized something. I didn't need his explanation. It wouldn't heal me. It wouldn't erase the nights of doubt, the tears, the ache in my chest. The truth was simple. Love had turned into something else long before this happened. I had been holding on to the memory of what we used to be, not what we were now. I stood up slowly. You should stay, I said quietly, for Hania's sake. But I can't promise things will ever be the same. He nodded, eyes glistening. I'll do whatever you want. I walked back inside without another word. Sometimes silence is the only thing that keeps dignity alive. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought of Shazia. I pictured her alone somewhere, crying, lost. Despite everything, I prayed for her. I asked God to forgive her, because even though I couldn't yet, I didn't want hate to live in my heart. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It just means refusing to let pain poison you forever. I turned off the light and whispered into the darkness. One day maybe this won't hurt so much. And for the first time in weeks, I felt a strange peace, not because the pain was gone, but because I had stopped running from it. Weeks passed, but time felt strange, both too slow and too fast. Some mornings, I'd wake up forgetting for a moment what had happened, and then it would all rush back like a wave crashing over me. The pain didn't disappear, it simply changed shape. It became quieter, more private. Hania was my strength during those days, though she tried to hide her own hurt behind a strong face. She went to her classes, helped me in the kitchen, and stayed close whenever her father was around. But I could see the tension in her eyes, the way she avoided him, the way her smile never quite reached her face anymore. Aslam, on the other hand, had changed too. He spoke less, worked more, and spent evenings sitting alone in the living room, staring at nothing. Sometimes I'd find him looking at our family photos on the wall, his eyes wet. Once I caught him standing by the doorway of Hania's room, wanting to say something, but turning away when she ignored him. It wasn't an angry house anymore. It was a sad one. One evening after dinner, I found him outside in the courtyard, fixing a broken flower pot. The same pot Shazia and I had once painted together. He looked up as I approached, wiping his hands. It broke last night, he said quietly. I thought I could fix it. I looked at the pieces glued together, faint cracks still visible. Doesn't look the same, does it? I said softly. He shook his head. No, but it can still hold something. I didn't reply. But that sentence stayed with me for a long time. Days turned into months. Life found a slower rhythm. Hania graduated, and I poured my energy into preparing for her ceremony. I wanted it to be a day without shadows, a day she could remember with pride, not pain. That morning, she came out of her room wearing a white dress. I couldn't help smiling. You look beautiful, I said. She blushed a little, though her eyes softened. Thank you, Mama. Aslam came out of the room then, wearing a pressed shirt. He looked hesitant, like he wasn't sure he was allowed to be part of this joy. Can I come with you? He asked quietly. Hania looked at him for a long moment. I held my breath. Then she nodded once, curtly. It's my graduation. You should be there. That small act of grace meant more than any words could have. At the ceremony, I watched my daughter walk across the stage, her chin held high. Tears blurred my vision. Pride and It's been almost 3 years now. When I look back, it feels like a lifetime ago. A story that happened to someone else. But then I touch the lines on my face, the softness in my heart, and I know it was me. I lived it. I survived it. There are still moments when I remember that day. The day everything fell apart. Sometimes it flashes like a film reel in my mind. The silence, the disbelief, the shattering of trust. But now it doesn't hurt the same way. It's like looking at an old scar. You still see it, but it no longer bleeds. Life has taught me something simple but powerful. Pain does not mean the end. Sometimes it's the beginning of knowing who you really are. For a long time, I thought forgiveness was about excusing someone's actions. But I've learned that forgiveness is really about setting yourself free, freeing your heart from the weight that keeps you from breathing. I didn't forgive because they deserved it. I forgave because I deserved peace. Aslam and I live quietly now. There's no big laughter, no grand declarations, but there's respect. Gentle, consistent, steady. Sometimes we sit together on the porch in the evenings, sipping tea as the sky fades from orange to blue. We don't talk much, but we don't need to. There's a kind of peace that comes from accepting what was and what is. Hania has grown into a woman I'm proud of. She's thoughtful, kind, and strong. She visits her father often now, talks to him like an adult who understands the flaws of being human. Once I heard her say to him, "I don't hate you anymore, Baba. I just wish you had loved yourself enough to never hurt us." He didn't reply, but I saw his eyes fill with tears. And in that moment, I realized something. We're all broken in some way, all learning how to be better, how to love better. As for Shazia, I haven't seen her in person since that day, but we exchange letters sometimes, simple ones. She tells me about her work, her small joys, her new home. She always ends them with, "I hope one day we can have tea together again." And every time I write back, "Maybe someday," because that's the truth. Maybe someday, when all the hurt has turned into nothing but lessons. There's a saying my mother used to tell me when I was young. The heart doesn't break to destroy you. It breaks to make room for more understanding. I didn't understand it back then, but I do now. Sometimes love teaches you through loss. Sometimes family tests you in ways you never expect. And sometimes healing means learning to live with both love and sorrow in the same heart. When I think of that day, the day I found my husband and my sister together, I no longer feel rage. I feel sadness, yes, but also compassion, because I know now that people make choices out of weakness, out of loneliness, out of fear. It doesn't excuse it, but it helps you see that we're all flawed, fragile creatures trying to find warmth. And maybe that understanding is what forgiveness truly is. Not forgetting, but accepting that life isn't always fair, and still choosing peace over bitterness. Now, when it rains, I sit by the window with a cup of tea. I listen to the rhythm of the drops against the glass, and I let the quiet fill me. The house feels calm again. There's laughter sometimes, even music, and I thank God for that. For the second chances, the softer mornings, the strength to keep loving even when love hurt me the most. If you asked me what I've learned, I would say this. No matter how deep the betrayal, the heart always knows how to heal if you let it. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's courage, the kind that doesn't shout, but whispers. I will not let this pain define me. And so, I live quietly now, not in bitterness, not in regret, but in peace. Because even after everything, I still believe in love.